G'day, it's Marshall from MM4x4. Today we're going to show you the operation of Automate in the MQ Triton. First I'll introduce you to the LED switch here. When the car's first started, you'll notice that the LED's pulsing. That's because the engine's cool and the transmission oil isn't up to temperature yet. So it's pulsing to let you know that it's working. It's waiting to reach the activation temperature. That temperature is adjustable and we'll show you that a bit later. So I'll just take for a short drive now, and when it's warmed up, you can see Automate in operation. So I've got the car in drive now, so Automate will be changing gears. So this is just like you in drive normally. There's no need to bother about changing gears. Below 30, the transmission computer's doing it. Above 30, Automate's doing it, and you'll see that transition when the gear number is displayed in the instrument cluster. So what I'll do now is I'll just accelerate off from stopping, and you can just see Automate in action. Now the torque converter's locked up. It locked up in second gear. You can actually feel it happen. Zone, just accelerate some more. So you've downshifted then, give a bit more power, and up to 100 or thereabouts. Now slow down, it's in fourth. Now if I give a bit of a punch around the corner here, it'll drop to third. And all this time the torque converter is remaining locked. And it completely changed the feel of the car. It just transforms it. It just feels fantastic. It's like you've got that instant responsiveness with like a manual transmission. There's no slush box feel at all. Just put your foot down, just change gear, back off a bit, goes to fourth, into fifth. Really works well in the MQ Triton. At the moment I have it in drive, however in the display you'll see it's showing you the gear number. This is a feature I particularly like when towing. I like to know what gear you're in. One of the things to learn about Automate in the MQ is it has the ACEN transmission, which has a funny behavioural quirk below 30 kilometres an hour, and Automate is programmed to avoid that quirk. What the quirk does is it forces you into first gear if you're using a lockup kit. Does it on the Pajero, the Tritons, and unfortunately the workaround for it, or at least there's a workaround, and that's to put the car into drive mode. So in order to have the lockup kit operating to avoid the quirk, it means that whenever you're under 30 kilometres an hour, it'll be in drive mode. So if I put the car into sport mode, I've moved the lever across, you can see it's still in drive, and it will stay that way until you reach 30 kilometres an hour. Now, of course, if you don't want that to happen and you want to drive slowly, gear control, you can easily turn the unit off, and you see you're back to 1. So it'll actually stay in drive until you go above 30 kilometres an hour. So it's kind of a hybrid drive. You know, below 30, it's drive. Above 30, the driver's back in control of the gear shifts. So if I now take off, see, still in drive, hit 30 kilometres an hour, and now it's in third gear. So it's locked up. So as you slow down, you'll notice that as we go below 30 kilometres an hour, it's gone back into drive. Now there's one exception to that, and that's if you're engine braking. So if I'm in second gear and I start slowing down, it stays locked and it doesn't go into drive. Same as if you're in first gear. Alright, once you touch the accelerator, which means you're not engine braking, it goes back to drive until above 30. There we go, we're in third gear. And I can demonstrate that in first gear as well. So if you imagine your engine braking, going to first gear, staying in first gear there. And if I touch the accelerator, it goes back to drive. So the LED itself, it is there to let you know when you're actually in sport mode and the driver is responsible for changing the gears. So if the LED is off, it means that it's automatically changing gears. So if you blow 30, it's off. If you're in actual drive, you want drive mode, and you want Automate to be changing the gears, the LED will be off. But when you're above 30k an hour and you want to change gears, move it into sport mode, you'll see the LED will be on. So you tend to use the LED as an indicator of whether or not you're in manual shift mode or not. That's a difference because of the Triton integration. With the Triton, we can't override the D or the 1 display. So instead, we've used the LED as an indicator of when you're in that manual mode. So I'll put the car in drive at the moment and we'll drive off and you'll just see it operate. So just went above 30 kilometers an hour, you can see we're in second gear. And Automate is controlling the gear shifts. It's locked up and it's all happening automatically. Automate has a 5th gear lockout feature, so if you double tap the LED, it flashes to let you know acknowledged and is now in 4th gear. And if we go up to 100 kilometers an hour, and we're in a 100 kilometer an hour zone here, you see it stays in 4th gear. Just double click the LED again, and now it's in the 5th gear mode. So to show you if I move across into sport mode, you'll see the LED will come on. So that's now telling the driver that you're in charge of changing the gears. So I can go back to 4th, go back into 5th. And the other feature of the LED is that if you are actually unlocked and then you start slipping, it's like a slip alert, it'll flash at you. So if I bring it down to 60 kilometers an hour, I'm in sport mode, so it's held 5th, and you'll now see, although the sun's on it at the moment, the way Automate works, which is different to other kits available on the market, is it connects onto the CAN bus of so it can talk to all the vehicle computers. It does this via the ODB2 port. And because of that, it can get all the information it needs, like the accelerator pedal position, the gearing, the load, how fast you're going, whether you're in low range or high range 4-wheel drive, headlights are on or off. It gets all that information by listening to what the vehicle computers are doing. And because of that, it adapts as you drive. So when you're in drive mode, it's just like you're driving a normal transmission, except you don't have the slip. And you have that nice direct feel of the power to the road. And because it gets all that information from the vehicle computers, it also knows how much slip there is in the torque converter when it's unlocked. And we have a feature called Safe Lock, and what Safe Lock does is it will only lock up the torque converter when the slip is low, and it uses the same limits as the factory computer, and that helps protect the clutch from extra wear. So you don't want the torque converter clutch activating when you're under high slip conditions. It's a bit like in a manual car, if you're revving the engine up from stop and then slowly releasing the clutch, you're slipping it and wearing it more. So Automate and our Safe Lock feature, which is also in lockup mode, protects the clutch from that kind of excessive wear. Okay, I'll just demonstrate the Safe Lock feature in practice. So I'll put it in sport mode, so the LED's on, and I'll go to 5th gear. So this is now unlocked. So if I now accelerate, it's slipping. You also see the slip warnings on. Now if I drop to 4th, I'm still under high load, it's still flashing, so it hasn't locked yet. And when the slip's low enough, there it is, it's now locked up. And if I do the same thing again, this time I'll do the acceleration more gently. So go to 5th gear, just accelerate more gently. And this time I drop back to 4th, and it's locked up straight away. So when I changed to 4th, there was a low slip condition, and it was within the limits, and it just locked up straight away. As I showed earlier, if it was under a high slip condition, because we're accelerating hard, it delayed that lock up until the the low slip condition was met. Another feature is it will dim the LED when you have your headlights on. So if you're driving on the highway, you see the headlights on, it's now dimmed. Now if you're in a situation like this, it's daytime and you've got your lights on, it's a bit hard to see the LED. So if you push and hold it for 5 seconds, you'll see it's now bright again. And that's like an override feature. So if I turn the headlights off, turn the headlights on, the LED remains at the same brightness. It remembers that between engine starts, so if you're cruising during the day and stopping and starting quite frequently, you don't have to reset it. And to put it back to the mode where it's linked to the headlights, you just toggle it, just push and hold for 5 seconds again. Then you see it's back to being dim. If I turn the headlights off, it's gone bright again. I'll demonstrate for you now how to change the Automate settings. Have the car parked, turn the ignition on, move it to sport mode, and then push the LED once, just push it. So you'll see on the left that there's the tacho says number 1, that's parameter 1, and what's included is a quick reference card that fits nicely in the sun visor. And the first parameter is the gear shift adjustment. So to adjust the parameters, you just, I'm in sport mode, so I just push the lever to plus and it increases the number. And every 10 represents 100 RPM delay or extra RPM for the gear change. So I bring it back to the default. So if I put it on 110, it would rev up a bit more by 100 RPM before changing gears. And if I drop it below that, say 95, it'll actually change gears a little bit earlier. So you can tune this to your own car. If you have larger tyres, you probably want to increase it. Or if you've got a remapped engine and larger tyres, it might be okay back on the defaults. But you can adjust this to your own preference. The main thing being when it changes gears, you don't feel the engine's labouring. So to adjust the next parameter, this is the minimum lockup gear. So it's on 20 at the moment. So parameter 2 is 20. 20 represents second gear, 2. If you want to make it third gear, you ought to go to 30, fourth gear, 40. You can go to first gear, so that'll show 10. However, that's only if you've got a modified valve body in your transmission that's been modified specifically to enable lockup in first gear. The stock transmissions will not lock up in first gear. So I'll put it back to second, and usually you won't find you'll need to change from that. Third parameter is the LED brightness. Now I've got the headlights on at the moment. You see it's dim. If I turn the headlights off, it's bright. So you can adjust this setting individually. So if that's making it dimmer, and if I put the headlights on, you can see it's very dim. I can make it brighter, like that. So each setting is selectable using the actual headlight switch. And the last parameter is the setting for the transmission temperature. So the default's 40. I had it on 30. If you want to just only have Automate come on when the gearbox is warm, you could set it higher to 70 or 80. But I don't expect anyone would use that because you don't get the fuel saving benefits then until it's actually hot. So finish, push the button. Now if you want to reset the whole thing back to factory defaults, so it's the same in this configuration mode where sport, engine not running, ignition on, just push and hold the button for 10 seconds. You'll see the LED will flash 5 times, and now behind the scenes it's all back to factory defaults. So I can go through settings again, just push it. So 100, that's the minimum gear, LED brightness, transmission temperature. And it does the full deflection just so you know it's at the end.